She lost access to her own money, not because it was gone, but because the bank wouldn't let her touch it. This is the moment Cynthia Lummis realized something was broken and why Bitcoin changed everything.
Well, for my last time as United States Senator from Wyoming on this stage, welcome, Bitcoin 2026. It's such a privilege for me to be here and to be part of your journey these last years. So I want to take you on that journey for a few minutes as my part of this program this morning. I am a rancher and a lawyer from Wyoming, not necessarily an expert at anything has to do with computers. You can ask my staff about that for verification. And I went on this journey through a very unlikely event in my life. And I'll tell you that because we all have to elevate substance over form. And that's what Bitcoin does. So that's what I'm going to talk about this morning. When I was running for my fourth and last term in the U.S. House, I was out campaigning in Wyoming. My husband was transferring our bank accounts to a new bank that had bought the accounts from the old bank. In the middle of that process, when his name was on the accounts and we transferred to the new bank, he died in the middle of the night of a massive heart attack as a very young man. I'm off campaigning in another part of Wyoming, so I'm dealing with this absolute sudden shock of losing your spouse absolutely unexpectedly. I went back to Cheyenne, met my daughter there. We planned a funeral while we were still going through the shock of this happening. And then I began to get bills from his contractors and subcontractors. He was a lawyer, but he never met an old building that he didn't want to fix up. So his projects, his passion projects, were to buy old buildings, take them through the National Trust for Historic Preservation process, and return them to their former glory. That's expensive. And I was starting to get bills. I didn't have access to our bank account because during that very short 2 days, while he was transferring our money and I was away, my name was no longer on our accounts. Furthermore, I could not find his will. His will was not where it typically had been. And I knew I was the executor of his estate. So, fortunately, I had an account in my own name under a different bank. And so I began paying his contractors and subcontractors until I ran out of money. I didn't have the money to pay his funeral expenses. I didn't have money to live on, and still madly looking for his will. This is a situation where the bank knew exactly what was happening. They had the signature card there with an X on it for me to sign the minute I walked in, but because he died and his name was the only one on the account during that event, I was locked out of our money. When we finally got through that again, I began to think, isn't there something out there where I can safeguard my assets, access them anytime I need, without having to rely on a trusted third party? And that was when my daughter's boyfriend, now my son-in-law, talked to me about Bitcoin. It sounded a little strange to me that you could own an asset that lived on a blockchain. But I took a chance and I purchased 3 Bitcoin for $300 each in 2013 and 14. I think I still own them. I had to put all my assets when I arrived in the U.S. Senate in a blind trust, but I'm hoping they're still there when I leave the Senate at the end of this year. Then I went to the Satoshi conference, and I was asked to speak about how the Senate works. And I got exposure to this unique and fabulous asset that made me want to learn more. So when I arrived in the US Senate, I was the only person who knew anything about Bitcoin. And that sent me on this incredible journey. The first thing was the IRS advised the Senate on the definition of broker, literally saying if you write software or you create hardware to mine Bitcoin, you must be a broker. It was absurd, ridiculous, and it needed some expertise. So we called on the internet on this industry, and you responded in droves. And it finally let senators know that there are a group of people out here that understand this asset, own this asset, and know that it is unique in our country as an asset that truly is freedom money. You don't need a trusted third party. You know it's going to go up in value initially, even though it fluctuates over time, because there's only 21 million that will ever be mined. It is, the value proposition is built right into the formula. You can take it anywhere. You can transfer it on your phone. You can transfer it cheaply, safely, and it is in your individual wallet. Or if you don't trust yourself to host an individual wallet, you can host it through the hundreds of people who now can be trusted to keep your money, your Bitcoin, for you when you can access anytime. There were people during the wars that we've been involved in who've been able to transmit money via Bitcoin to their friends and to their favorite charities in countries that are war-torn. There are women who've been able to leave a dysfunctional marriage and walk out with an asset that is uniquely theirs. This is a country that is a freedom country. And to have an asset like that is unprecedented. This should be the home of Bitcoin. This should be the global capital for this asset. And more important, Bitcoin comes with it not only as an asset, but as a culture that could have written the United States Declaration of Independence that we celebrate this 250 years hence. And it's because this is freedom money, that all people are created equal, and that this asset guarantees it. So I want to thank you all for taking me on this journey with you. I want to thank you for the tremendous opportunity to craft legislation in Washington. We are going to mark up the Clarity Act in May. We are going to get it to the finish line. We are going to have the market structure that allows us to innovate, you to innovate, America to lead the world on this freedom asset. God bless you. Thank you very much for the privilege of serving you in Washington, D.C.